Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael.
And I'm Molly.
And happy Easter, everyone. We are recording this on Easter Sunday, so we hope you all had a very happy holiday, happy Passover, whatever you're celebrating. We hope you had a good weekend. And we are here today to talk a triple tribal Blood Moon Survivor 50, as well as the Scamanda heard around the world, the Summer House scandal, Amanda and West. We are going to be breaking it down, giving our thoughts because there is a lot to cover. So, Molly, are you ready to get into all of that?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start with Summer House because there's so much to get into here. So, I'll kind of give a little background for those of you who may not be super familiar with the situation. So, Summer House is a show on Bravo that started in 2017. It was originally about kind of a group of mostly 20 somethings, some 30 somethings who live in New York City. They have their work lives during the week, and the show mostly focuses on a group of them who share a house over the weekends during the summer. So from like July 4th weekend to Labor Day, every weekend they went out to the Hamptons and they have a share house, they party, they drink, they hook up, whatever the case may be. And it kind of just focuses on mostly that time over the weekend when they're all living together. And over the years the cast has changed and evolved, and but it Kyle and Amanda have kind of been like the house mom and dad for that whole time. So in season 1 they were just Kyle, they weren't officially dating yet. Amanda would kind of come by the house every now and again, but really, like, as from season 2 on, they were the couple. They were the solid couple that would always be there. And they got married in 2022, I believe. Season 6, it was the finale of that show. So they have been married for about 4 years now. And they are a couple that's pretty on and on, hot and cold, if you will. They would always, every other season, it felt like, have a really bad season where they're fighting all the time and arguing, and everyone's like, are they going to break up? But they always got back together and had a good year the next year and seemed strong. And then it was a roller coaster. And then about I would say maybe 6 months ago, there were really rumors that started that Amanda and Kyle were going to get divorced, that they had split, they were living separately. They kind of softly denied it. Amanda would kind of make jokes about it. She posted, if you remember, Molly, like where she was in like a dog house or something, and she's like, I'm in my new house, my new apartment. And so, like, they made light of it, and so people thought, like, oh, maybe it's not true, maybe these are all just rumors, anonymous sources and what have you, or maybe they had a rough time but got past it. But then in January, they officially made a statement on Instagram stories that they were splitting up, that they were separating and going to get a divorce. And then this season of Summer House started, and it was very clear why that happened. They're having a rough season. I think that's safe to say,
For
right?
sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely rough.
Yeah, they're fighting quite a bit, and a couple episodes ago was really bad for Kyle. I mean, he was just tearing into Amanda for not seemingly a whole lot. That he was really jealous. It seemed like that she was hanging out with everybody else and wouldn't give him attention. But Kyle famously became a DJ a year or two ago, and Amanda does not like that because Kyle would go to parties, and there were rumors of him hooking up with people at these parties when he was DJing and sleeping in other people's house for a night. And it's a lot. Just watch this season of Summer House for the full context of that. But
Yeah.
basically, in short, they're not connecting. They're not really seemingly communicating very well, and there's a lot of resentment there between the two of them. So they split, and then maybe, what would you say, 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit more than that, rumors started to circulate that Amanda was hooking up with West. So West is a started on Summer House in season 8, and he's been there for 2 years now, or 3 seasons, I guess. And he was, I would say, pretty likable, a fan favorite, especially in his first season. I think people really, really liked West. He was in a relationship that season with Sierra, who is Amanda's best friend on the show. Like Amanda, Sierra, and Paige DeSorbo, who is not on this current season, but was for a long time on the show. They were known as the Bedbugs. They were the three best friends. They never really had many fights or arguments between the three of them for many, many years on the show. They were just very, very close. And West and Sierra were in a relationship for that first season when West joined the show. Then they broke up. I don't know if you would even say they officially were like an exclusive relationship at any point, but they were clearly like there were feelings there. They were close for a while, and then they broke up. West was kind of, the fame was getting to him a little bit, and he wanted to be able to like be single and flirt with girls in the DMs that were reaching out to him and all that. And it seemed like he didn't take it as seriously as she did. So then last season they were not on good terms. Sierra was not willing to let West back in her life. She was very hurt by what he did. And then this season they started to kind of break the ice a little bit. They were on better terms. And it seemed like there was a question of like, are they going to get back together? Is Sierra going to give him another shot? And people were kind of rooting for that a little bit because I think people really like the both of them and like them together. And then, so that's kind of where things stood until rumors started that Amanda and West, who are now both single, we don't know the status of Sierra and West exactly leading into this current day, but we know that Amanda is single. She and Tyler are no longer together. And rumors circulated that the two of them were hooking up. I think a lot of people didn't believe it. Did you believe it at first?
I when I was first hearing about it, I don't think I did right away, but then the more I was hearing about it, I was like, "Oh, like this actually does seem like it could be real."
Yeah. No, I didn't believe it at first either. I thought that, people like to, okay, they're together. Like they're friends. We know that they're close friends. They've always had a good relationship with each other. And we see on this current season that West is really defending Amanda against Kyle and their fights. And like, so it's clear that the two of them have a connection. And even Amanda like had made a statement before the season started, I think, just saying like I couldn't have gotten through this summer without West and Jesse.
Yeah.
And like that they were just really good confidants for her. And so I think I just kind of assumed like, okay, the two of them are still good friends and are being seen out together and are hanging out together because they're friends. And that people are just kind of, they like to stir the pot. They like to make rumors and speculate about everything. But I really didn't imagine that anything would come of it. And then things started to really seem a little funny that Sierra and Amanda seemingly like were not interacting with each other on Instagram. They were supposed to do some Amazon Live thing together a couple weeks ago, and they ended up doing it separately. And the pieces started to come together of like, okay, there's something off. There's something weird between Sierra and Amanda, and we just don't know what exactly. And then the bomb dropped that Amanda and West, and between this time and the few days leading up to it, like there were a lot of like reputable sources saying like there's something here. Like they're hearing that there's something here, and so people started to really like the rumors ramped up a lot leading up to this moment. But then there was an official statement that Amanda and West put out together, and I will read that statement in full here. We've seen the growing online speculation, so while this is still very new, we wanted to provide some clarity. It was never our intention to purposely hide anything, given the complicated relationship dynamics involved and the scrutiny that comes with being on a reality show. We needed a little space to process things privately before speaking on it. We've shown up for each other as friends over the years, through all the highs and lows, and what's developed recently was the last thing either of us expected. Our connection grew out of a genuine, long-standing friendship, which made it especially important for us to approach this with care. As our feelings evolved, we wanted to take time to understand exactly what we were feeling. We also recognize that this has an impact beyond just us and never wanted our actions to cause any hurt or be perceived as careless. We truly appreciate the understanding and respect as we navigate this. So this was wild.
So crazy.
What was your reaction to that statement?
Well, it didn't really address like any. I feel like it should have at least apologized to Sierra and Kyle, and that like that was just such a broad apology that it didn't feel sincere to me, and it kind of just was like, this is how we feel. We don't feel bad about it in a way. Like it's kind of just like, okay, this is what we did and didn't mean to hurt anyone, even though you obviously knew it was gonna hurt people. And like there was, it's just it didn't sit right for me.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, because the thing to that we have to remember is how close Sierra and Amanda are and have been for 6 years now. And Sierra's been there for Amanda through Amanda's divorce, through her separation, through her fights with Kyle over the last 6 years. And Amanda has been there during all of West and Sierra's relationship and the drama and how hurt Sierra was by him and like
Yeah,
all of this stuff and talking her through it. And it's like now it makes you just kind of question like when did these feelings start? When did this relationship start? When did like this become more than just two close friends? And it's like was this at all during Amanda and Kyle's marriage? Was this at all during what is Sierra and West's relationship now? That's what I'm most curious about. Is
yeah,
what was current day Sierra and West relationship because we're watching it on the show, but we because the show is still airing, they have not been able to talk about what their relationship is like present day. And there's like rumors now that they were trying to make things work or that they were like, very much in communication and there was potential of that coming back at least. Like that's what I just feel like I need to know is was Amanda doing this while she knew Sierra was still open to making things work with West?
yeah. I'm curious about that too. I feel like Amanda probably didn't know the full context there, but I mean, obviously West did if he was still trying to talk with Sierra and hook up with her, and also hook up with Amanda. Like that's messy. Like I don't know how he would have thought that he could get away with that, but I really am curious to know the more details there too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really disappointing, I think, because I really liked both Amanda and West a
Mhm.
lot. And I think this one hurts. Like cuz I've always said like the Summer House group is like the group that I on Bravo that I want to be friends with. Like of any of the shows on Bravo, this feels like a group of friends that like I want to be friends with them. And especially I feel like that is the bed bugs. That's Sarah, Amanda, and Paige. I just feel like their friendship is so relatable and their friendship is so like it just feels so genuine. And now it's like they're never going to be that again. And it just doesn't feel like these are two people that would do this.
I know. It's crazy that it actually did happen, and now it's like, well, Amanda just really lost one of her best friends. And same with Wes. I mean, I don't know how close Wes and Sierra were. We obviously don't know the full extent to that, but if they were also still really close, like Wes also lost Sierra in this, like it's a big deal for all the friend group, obviously, that it's now shattered.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's just it's wild. Like it's like why is that happening? Like Amanda could have chosen anyone in New York City and went for West and then like caused this whole issue here. But everyone was like about to be Team Amanda forever, and then now it's like, okay, never mind.
That's the thing. Like, we've been talking about the fact that, like, this is going to be Amanda's year. Like, this is going to be, like, the glow up that Amanda's about to have post Kyle, and that she's going to get, like, the Ariana treatment. She's going to get, like, all this stuff. And it just felt like she was, like, set to be, like, the it girl of Bravo. And not anymore. Now she's the Raquel of Bravo.
Yeah.
But and I want to say too, I do in a sense feel for Amanda because she clearly has had a rough year. We're watching it on the show. Her relationship is crumbling with Kyle. Now she's separating from Kyle. We know that she's had like these mental health struggles throughout the years that she's been very open about. And I can see a world where Amanda is just not in a good place right now, not in a good headspace, and just looking for anyone to like, not to latch on to, that's maybe the wrong word, but like to support her. And West, we've seen on the show, has been a big support for her, has been there for her. And I would imagine that off camera, he's been the same, that he's been somebody that she calls when she's having a rough time with Kyle or having a rough time that she's not with Kyle anymore and just needing someone to talk to or needing like a guy to talk to that's not Sierra or Paige or whoever, her other off camera friends, of course. But I can imagine that he's somebody who she feels like can understand what she's going through because he saw all this the fights and the struggles and understands the pressure of being on the show too, and that's a very unique situation. And so like there's very few people that can understand that, and West is one of those people. And so maybe she's kind of looking for like a guy's perspective on certain things, and he's somebody that she would call to get that. And that just over time of them talking hours and hours on end, and that it grew into more, and she's not in a good headspace to where she can like separate the fact that this isn't a good idea, and she goes for it. I think though, like to me, what would have been a little bit more, still horrible, but maybe more understandable, is if like this was just a one time like kiss or something.
Yeah, that's what I
And
was gonna say. Is
and then
like if
like
you
she
can move
immediately
past
knew it was wrong, called
yeah.
Sierra, and Sierra's pissed at her. But like I could maybe rationalize that, but to say like no, we're in a relationship, like it's three bridges too far.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like that's just wild, and I don't know where what's gonna happen after this. There's no way that they can last because of all the stuff that's happening. I feel like all the hate, like they're never gonna have anyone to rally behind them. I think so. I think that's just like recipe for disaster. But I mean, if they can make it out of this, that's like 0.1% chance of that happening. But in my opinion, but I don't know because it's just too crazy.
Yeah, and I mean there's, all sorts of other rumors that like that West was in an exclusive relationship with somebody else during this whole time, and that Amanda was not even like, was just another girl on the side for him, which would really be embarrassing for Amanda if that was the case. Like to throw away your one of your best friends, and really like two of your best friends, because Paige is never going to talk to her again either, I feel like. And so we really like burned a lot of bridges for somebody who wasn't even exclusive with you as maybe she thought he was. So that would be kind of crazy, and that would up the level of scandal of this as well, because then it's like an affair, if you will, on one side at least. Um, and yeah, I feel like there was something else I was going to say, but now I forgot what that was. But let's compare this to Scandival, because there's been a lot of people comparing it to Scandival. How do you think does this compare?
Well, it's I feel like this is much more of that friend betrayal versus the relationship betrayal. That obviously Tom cheated on Ariana for a while, and they were basically married. Like they were together for a long time. At least like in this scenario, like what we currently know of what happened, like they were all single people, but that Amanda and Sierra are best friends, and she got with her ex. So like that's what's bad here, and it's just I feel like it's worse because of that friendship betrayal. Like in a relationship, like yeah, you've been with that person for X amount of years, but like relationships tend to end unless you get married. But in a friendship, that's not going to end until, I mean, something like this could happen, which is a very extreme scenario. But that's just, I feel like, worse, especially with what we've seen over the years of what we've been saying, of have they're the bed bugs and that close relationship there. And it's just, it's really sad to see it come to this now, but that's what my opinion is. It's I think it is worse than Scandal.
I struggle to say it's worse than Scandival because that also had a major friendship betrayal with Ariana and Raquel.
Yeah.
Rachel. We'll say Rachel now, I guess. Because they were also very close friends. I don't know how their friendship, it probably was not as close of a friendship as Sierra and Amanda, to be fair. But I think on that end, on Scandival, you had both the friendship betrayal and the partner betrayal that Ariana had to deal with both. With this, Sierra, at the very least, like, she has the friendship betrayal with Amanda is awful, and that's the worst part of it for sure. But with West, I guess we need to know the timeline of like if they were still trying to make things work and she was open to that up until this point, then yeah, then at that point she has like two major betrayals on her hand, and like then I feel like it's probably a little bit more comparable to Scandival. Although it wasn't like she was in a 9-year relationship with West. So it is different. But I do think that the friendship betrayal here is potentially worse than the relationship betrayal that Ariana had to deal with. Like it's equal. I will say not worse. It's probably equal. Because I think that a friend betrayal can feel worse than a partner betrayal, like you said, because that's not a relationship you ever expect to end.
Hmm.
And I really, really feel for Sierra so much because not only is she dealing with this, but there's also, I think, the racial factor that you can't ignore here. That we saw her on just a few weeks ago on the show talk about how much hate she got for being in like an interracial relationship with West, and that people just kind of view her as someone to not a serious relationship, not like a serious like potential wife because of that, and they just kind of view her as someone who to have fun with in the moment, and somebody who's like just a beautiful woman who they can like have as arm candy. And it almost now for Sierra must feel like, was I also that for Amanda in a way? Like, was I just somebody who, she could just kind of have as a friend on the show and feel comfortable with, and but never really cared about me as much as a friend should. And so I just like can't even imagine that Sierra is now feeling like she has to feel that way with both West and Amanda. And now she's probably questioning all her other friendships and all her other relations. Like, it's awful. And Ariana had to do with, a similar thing in terms of trust with her friends and her partners. And like going through something like that just has to be the worst possible thing that you could imagine. So I feel like they're different situations, but I struggle to say that one is worse or better than the other.
Yeah. No, yeah, the racial part of it is what also is really bad here as well. With we, as you said, just heard her talking about how people were judging her for letting a white man play her and all that, and obviously that's not good to hear from the public perception of that. And then now for West to go for her white friend, and it's not a good look on that front either. And that's like extra betrayal there. But it's just, it's all around a mess.
Yeah. And what's so kind of wild is that just days before this, we also had a somewhat similar scandal on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that Jesse hooked up with Miranda's ex Chase, and it's really weird that that happened just days before this. Do you think that compares at all to this scandal?
So that I feel like was just a kiss
Yeah,
situation, which I mean, still not good. But I think because Jesse just got divorced, or the announcement of her divorce just came out, like she's in a very fragile spot right now, and I think that she was close with Chase in a friendship way. So I guess similar with Amanda and Wes, where they're like comforting each other, kind of thing, of like Chase comforting Jesse through that and talking with her. Because I mean, she talked about on Call Her Daddy how she was texting with Chase, which
didn't
I
Jesse
mean,
hate Chase? Am I
yeah,
crazy?
I know.
Didn't she like leave a party because he was coming, or like
Yeah,
started
I
like
thought they didn't like
arguing with
each other
Layla
either. I
about
don't
that?
know. Things change all the time in their friendships.
Yeah.
Um, but I think obviously like that's not a good look for Jessie if she's still friends with Miranda at this moment in time when before this happened. Like she should at least like talk to Miranda about that if she was interested rather than like going behind her back. Because it seems like Miranda's like pretty open to talking about certain things like that. Like she's like has a good relationship with Chase. Like I
Yeah.
think she would have appreciated that versus like hearing about it after the fact and just getting sent flowers. But and she heard about it from Chase first. Like Jesse wasn't gonna mention it to her.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't think it's as bad as other situations because it's still like at least they're not continued to be together. Like it was just like that one kiss, at least in what we've heard. It's just that one
Well, now it seems
experience
like
that they
she's with
did, and then
Marciano potentially, although I don't believe
yeah,
that for half a second.
I
But
know Jesse's just messy Jesse right now. But I think because of that, it's more just like I don't know if Miranda will ever forgive her, but it's not as deep of a betrayal.
yeah. Well, and also I don't think they're nearly as close
Yeah.
as Sierra and Amanda. So I think if they had been on a show for a decade together and been best friends, then yeah, I think that that might compare. But it's a much smaller version of it, and I'm sure that Miranda, especially, is so grateful for this summer house scandal so that she doesn't have to be in the press about all that. And maybe Jesse, if it kind of seemed like her goal was maybe to drum up headlines and get the cameras back rolling, she might be pretty upset about the summer house scandal taking over her scandal that was putting her in the headlines.
Yeah.
So,
I know. It feels
but
like that. It feels like so long ago now, even though that
doesn't
was
it? I know it's crazy. But I would say that maybe a more comparable situation is actually something that happened on Southern Charm a few years ago. So I know you didn't watch it, but you might, you'll know some of the players involved. But I'll just quickly kind of explain it. So, um, Shep Rose on Southern Charm was dating Taylor for I don't know how long they dated, probably like 2 or 3 years. And they were on the show together as a couple together for I think just 1 year, really, where Taylor was a main cast member, season 8. Also, that same season, Austin Kroll was dating a new cast member, Olivia Flowers, at that time. So they were kind of like two separate couples that were friends with each other and would kind of go on double dates together, hang out together. They were very close as couples. Then they broke up. Both couples broke up right around very similar times. And then apparently in between seasons, Austin and Olivia hooked up. Oh, no, sorry. Austin and Taylor hooked up. So Austin, who was dating Olivia, and Taylor, who was dating Shep, they ended up hooking up together and kept it a secret for a while. And then, right at the start of season 9, it came out that that happened. And it felt like for both a big betrayal from Taylor to Olivia, a big betrayal, and Austin to Shep, a big betrayal. And that was kind of the big drama of that season. I would say that it didn't generate the same headlines. It wasn't the same like level of scandal as this. I would say in large part due to the fact that Olivia and Taylor were very new cast members and we just weren't as invested in them. And
Yeah.
so I just don't think that because of that, it rose to the same level of intrigue from the audience. But I would say that that felt like a maybe more similar situation, like on paper, than Scandival did to this, because there was like they were single at the time when it happened, and it was just more of a friend betrayal than like a relationship betrayal. But I think that Scandival is obviously the more well known thing and was the more divisive thing. And this, it just in terms of like the level of like rumors before it came out, the fact that the season is still airing as it happened, and the fact that these are all people who we've watched for so long and care about so much, it in that way feels more similar to Scandival.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I know I haven't seen all that happened with Southern Charm, but obviously these reality TV friends just like to hook up with each other.
My God, like, are there 5 people in every city? Like, it feels like no, but I get it because I think like the people who you film with on these shows are it's such a small group of people who you feel like understand you. And like I understand that like it's harder almost once you're on a show for a certain amount of time. It must be hard to really like connect and understand people who aren't living that life because it's such a unique world. And so I understand that like someone like Amanda and Wes, it's like, okay, you're somebody else who gets it, who like I can just vent to and we can have real conversations about things because you're going through the same thing. And so I do understand that like after a while it must feel like these are your only options for people who really get you.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to look at it, but I still think they shouldn't rely
Oh,
on that.
100% no. Like I would have rather to go for Jesse.
Yeah,
You know what I
literally.
mean? That would have been so much better.
Yeah,
Like,
I
but
know.
or go for Ben. I don't know. Like Amanda has options that are
I
not
know. Then it has
West.
to be West.
No, but you know, to sum it all up, just feel for Sierra. I mean, it's just such a horrible situation. I'm excited for the reunion. I think that's going to be a very, very highly anticipated reunion that I hope will give us some answers, some clarity of the timeline of all of this. And I hope that Sierra gets to say whatever she needs to say to Amanda, to West, to whoever else. You know, I think a lot of people don't feel for Kyle because of how we're seeing him treat Amanda. I do feel for Kyle still. I don't think it excuses anything that he said to Amanda. I don't think it suddenly makes him right in all of these situations. I think that the treatment of Amanda in large part led to Amanda feeling as down as she has that probably led her to making these poor decisions. So, but I do still, you know, you feel for Kyle because that's somebody who he was with for a decade. And that has to be a tough situation, you know, with a friendship betrayal from West as well. So, you know, I feel for all parties that are not Amanda and West involved in the situation.
I agree. I feel like it's bad on all those fronts of for Sierra and for Kyle and just overall just how they're having to navigate this with all the public opinions and everything with that. And obviously Amanda and West knew what their actions would, or maybe they didn't know what their actions
But how
would.
could they not?
I know, literally. That's what I'm thinking. But then they come out with their statement that doesn't even apologize to anyone. So it's yeah, it's wild. Like they need some better PR team, I guess.
Or like pay for premium chat GPT.
Yeah.
Maybe you would have
That's
gotten
what
a better statement written.
I know.
But
Yeah.
last point here, we saw how Scandival affected Vanderpump Rules. That it basically we had one more season after that that was very a divisive, dark season that made it clear that the show could not continue on as it was. It led to a reboot. How do we think Scamanda affects the future of Summer House?
Yeah, so I feel like Sierra definitely would not come back now, but I could still see the rest of them. Like, I don't know, maybe not all of them, but like at least a good majority of people still wanting to come back. And I could see it still continuing for a period of time, but I don't know for how long, how it could last much longer. Or maybe they can get, and they already are starting to get like some younger castmates that like maybe those people will continue to propel on the show and continue on, but I don't know how long it does have.
Yeah, I think this is a interesting situation, a little bit different than Vanderpump because of the fact that there is already in the city. So, which I guess is similar to the valley that Vanderpump Rules had, but in the city already has some overlap with it, with
Yeah.
Amanda, Kyle, and Lindsay. And I could see a world where I think that there was potentially that they were already planning to bring Amanda, Kyle, and Lindsay just 100% over to In the City. I could still see that being the case. And then that way, that's a good way to separate Amanda and Sierra on two different shows, which, funny enough, one of the downsides I thought originally of separating them was that you were going to basically leave Sierra with having, her closest friend not there. Now that's no longer an issue.
Yeah.
But my curiosity now is where Sierra and West lie, because can they be in a house together? Would either of them want that, Sierra in particular? Um, does West move over to In the City? But I kind of felt like West was one of the tentpoles that was going to lead the future of Summer House, that he was going to be one of the longer standing familiar faces leaving on Summer House. But then where does that leave Sierra? I don't know. Like, does she just completely leave? Does she get too big for Summer House or
Yeah.
being a main cast member of Bravo? Is she going to get the Ariana treatment that she deserves and become too busy to be on the show? Because Ariana was even if Vanderpump Rules continued, Ariana wasn't going to continue on it. Is Sierra going to get some major gig like Ariana got hosting Love Island that's going to keep her busy and she doesn't need it anymore? I could see that. Um, but then does West become somebody who we even want to see leading Summer House, continuing on Summer House? Like, I don't know. It's a weird situation. I don't think it's going to necessarily lead to a complete reboot because they already are bringing in younger faces onto the
Yeah.
show this season. Like, they've done a better job than Vanderpump did at allowing the show to evolve its cast over the years, which I think they're now probably very grateful that they did, because now we've already been introduced to some newer faces that they don't need to do a complete reboot. They can kind of just like have those people that have joined in the last few years lead the show now and bring the vets who want to and should make sense to remain on Bravo as a friend group on In the City. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
I am too, but unless you have anything else any other points to make about this, I think now we can put that to bed for the moment and move on to our Blood Moon Triple Tribal Survivor.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So on day 12, a boat arrives on all three tribe beaches, bringing a letter that says the tribes have merged. Well, I guess it doesn't quite say that, but it implies it. And this is quite early for a merge. We talked about this a little bit last week, but you were not here, Molly. So, what are your thoughts on a 17-person merge?
Yeah, that's wild. I was not expecting this so early on in the season. Especially because I know you were just saying this too, that it was like, well, they just met each other kind of on these newer, like they just got swapped, so they were on some other dynamics there, and so now to have them merge where it's not like they haven't really discovered their close relationships on like their second tribes, I guess. Like they don't really know who they can trust yet entirely, that like this merge is really an interesting one, I think, because it's so many people that there are so many different varieties of people that can work together and all of that, which I guess makes it for some excitement there, or people who maybe had talked pre-game about certain things that
Nobody pre-games.
yeah
Come on.
that they have edited out, but we know it's a thing, and that's obviously going to take into account here as well. So I think it's crazy, and obviously we know that there's a triple elimination tonight, so
Yeah, it's a merge in quotes. But then we just separate them right back into different groups, and basically they're back on tribes on different beaches. So it's like it's so weird with Survivor. It's like either they merge and they call it a merge, but then it's not a merge really, or they refuse to call it a merge, but it's just a merge. And like they're calling it, they don't give them buffs, so it's not really a merge, but they're all voting together and they're on the same tribe. So like it's bizarre. I don't know why Survivor can't just like call things what they are anymore. But we understand that like we started with 24 people this season. We got to start getting rid of them. I am glad that we didn't do just like double tribals every week at the pre-merge, because when you have these big names back on Survivor, you don't want to risk all of the biggest names, all of the fan favorites leaving early on. You want to give them the time, like the opportunity to see as many of these people for as long as possible. So I'm glad that they didn't do a pre-merge. I just think there has to be a better way than this to get rid of some people, because it just I would have preferred, I think, if we said this is the last week of the pre-merge, you're all tribes are going to tribal. Like basically do what we did, but just let all like stay in the same
keep the same tribe.
tribes,
Yeah.
have them all go to tribal, compete for individual immunity, and then call this coming week when we're down to 14, call that the merge, jury starts, have them all vote together. Like that to me makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, but not all the tribes were equal at that time. Would they have been?
No, they would not have been. And I think they probably, yeah, like there would have been, I think, some complaints with that too.
Mm.
But I think what it would have helped with is that we, there have been people who, because they haven't gone to tribal yet, we didn't see much of them. Like Tiffany and Chrissy, like these people who we've been, the last week or so, there have been all this discussion about the fact that they haven't been getting confessionals, that we haven't been seeing the women. And part of that is when a tribe doesn't go to tribal, you don't see them as much. So I think like this would have been the opportunity to let the tribes, or I guess it's just one that I guess had never gone to tribal of the swap tribes, like to ensure that all tribes go to tribal at least once before the merge, so that nobody's going into the merge having never seen tribal and they're getting their fire for the first time. So I just think like just logistically, like it just would have made more sense to not call this a merge yet. But who knows? There's
Yeah.
pros and cons, I guess, both ways. But it was weird. But before the other tribes arrive on their beach, Ozzy tells Emily and Christian about his idol to solidify trust. So this is interesting. It's kind of reminiscent back to Christian trying to tell Emily about about the Billie Eilish idol before they swapped tribes a couple weeks ago. Now Ozzy's the one trying to get out some information at the last minute. What did you think about, especially with Christian? We've seen Ozzy and Christian have a little bit of tension there after the Mike White boot. So, what do you think of now him wanting to kind of bury the hatchet and solidify trust there?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was smart from Ozzy's perspective of making sure like he didn't have any bad blood there. Also, to make sure going into that big merge, because he doesn't want Christian to say, "Oh, you can't trust Ozzy," and get him out. So I think with that, like Ozzy telling the information, like did solidify that trust. and showed that they could trust him. And it's funny to see Emily's opinion or reaction here versus the reaction she had when Christian was telling her. But the Christian situation was like really last minute here. At least they're still on the beach.
Yeah.
But I thought that was good that she was like, "Oh yes, like thanks for telling us, telling me." But I think that overall was the smart move there.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move by Ozzy, especially with Christian because of the fact that there was some tension there and Christian probably didn't know how to feel about Ozzy or how Ozzy felt about him. And so I think going into the merge, you want to have as many allies going in as you possibly can. And I assume that probably these are smart players. They probably figured that this wasn't going to be literally a 17-person vote, that there was going to be some sort of splitting up situation. And this is a way to, if they end up being on the same group together voting, that is someone who, every vote is so important. And
Yeah,
so now that is somebody who Ozzy doesn't necessarily have to worry as much about. That would, be Christian going around telling people like, Ozzy doesn't trust me. I don't trust Ozzy. Here's what happened, blah, blah, blah. Like, we need to get him out. And so now Ozzy can make Christian feel like, okay, that's actually somebody that like if we end up on the same group together, I can trust him.
yeah,
And we can vote together and I don't have to worry about him trying to get me out behind my back. So I think that was a smart move, and it also allowed Ozzy to get some information as well. So I think it worked out it definitely worked out for him.
yes, for sure.
Well, then after all the tribes come together and they all greet each other, some were meeting each other for the first time, we see Genevieve and Cerie talk. Now, Cerie confirms Genevieve's suspicions that Aubrey has an idol. We see a flashback way back when to Genevieve suspecting that Aubrey may have received a Billie Eilish idol. At that time, she had not actually received it, from what the edit that we saw, at least. But now it is confirmed because she did later get one that same day. And now Genevieve knows for sure that she does have it. So she wants to completely discredit Aubrey. And so she is going around telling people about this idol. And we see this funny segment I thought about, just kind of this game of telephone of everyone telling everything. This is what I miss about big groups, big tribes. We don't get this in a tribe of 5 people.
Yeah, no, it was so funny seeing literally everyone talking about it. So obviously the game of telephone did work here.
I think it would have been so much fun to have just one vote of 17 people. Like, imagine that segment, the whole episode.
Oh
Maybe it would have been too much, too hard to follow, but how fun would that have been for just one week?
yeah, that would be crazy.
But then Genevieve tells Ozzy that she is the one who gave him the boomerang idol, but she denies to everyone, including Rizzo, that she was the one to give Rizzo his idol. So she wants to keep that a secret so that nobody will know if it boomerangs back to her. So if Rizzo gets voted out with the idol in his pocket, nobody will know that Genevieve was the one to get that boomerang idol back to her. What do you think of this move? Do you think that this was smart for that reason, or would it have been better to try to gain Rizzo as an ally by telling him that she was the one to give that to him?
Yeah, I thought this was interesting here because, I mean, also, I guess it takes off. I mean, she already found one, but like, I guess her acknowledging she found two could have been like seen to be more of a threat in her perspective of like, yeah, I got two idols, but I didn't actually get to keep either of them, but I found them. But I think with that, like, I think it does it's weird because we don't know like if who's going to be on which tribe at this point, so we don't know if she really needs Rizzo's trust at this moment in time. So I think it was fine, I guess, but could have been better for her, just to be honest.
Hmm. I think it's easy to look back and say that because we know what happens.
Yeah,
But well, in fairness, that would not have made any impact, I
yeah,
don't
that's what I
think.
think.
But I can absolutely see why in the long term it would have been very beneficial to Genevieve for nobody to know that she would have this idol. Because then, like, there's no reason, like, if people know that an idol is going to boomerang back to Genevieve if they get Rizzo out, that's only going to help Rizzo. It's not going to help Genevieve, because then they're going to be like, for people who are not aligned with Genevieve, they're going to not want to take out Rizzo because or at least like flush his idol out, I guess. But they they don't want to get out somebody, and then they know by doing that that they are giving Genevieve an idol. So it's
Yeah.
easier to take out Genevieve at that point, and then that way you can get out Rizzo whether he uses idol or not, and they know it's just going to be rehidden back at camp, and there's an option that they will be the ones to get it, and it's not going to immediately go back to Genevieve. So I can absolutely see why that would be something that she would want to do. I just, yeah, I think that if she had ended up in a group with Rizzo, I would have then thought, and then get voted out, then I would say maybe that wasn't such a smart move, because then you could have gained Rizzo as an ally. And in a group of five, even just having one ally is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, then a boat arrives with another note informing the castaways that there is a twist that could change everything hidden somewhere in the jungle. So everyone goes searching for it, but Ozzy is the one to eventually find it. This is like the first time Ozzy's found anything on Survivor, so that's huge. And the note says that he is going to Exile Island and has to pick someone to go with him. So he ends up choosing Rizzo. What did you think about this choice?
I thought it was a good choice for him, especially because we see the conversation that they have like when they're actually on exile about Suri, and they can solidify that relationship there. Since, as you know, knows Rizzo is close to Suri and Ozzy's close to Suri, so they kind of need to make sure they can all trust each other there. And here, I think it just also we saw Rizzo almost finding it himself, so it kind of just felt like it was meant to be that they, or he walked by it, but he was there.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's just more in this situation. It does make sense, especially because of that the alliance they want to form there.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was really, really smart. Ozzy's really impressing me this season so far. One of the surprises to me of the season, because he's never been a strategic player. And this season, for the first time, I feel like he's making really smart choices along the way. And I think that this was a very smart choice for him because, like you said, the three of them with Suri are trying to solidify trust, form an alliance here. These are Suri's polygamous relationship. And I think that this is a way for the two of them, who are not super close and might not have a lot of trust with each other yet, a way for them to spend a day together and bond and form that relationship, so that once they go back to camp, the three of them can really all trust each other and not just trust each other because Suri trusts both of them. And so they must, kind of, whether they want to or not, work together. But now they can go back and be like, yeah, I trust both of you. And I think that's really big. And that will absolutely make them a stronger group that is less likely to break apart. And so I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, I agree.
So the rest of the players, except for Ozzy and Rizzo, because they are at Exile Island for the full day and get to skip the immunity challenge, skip tribal. They don't have to worry about anything for this round. So everyone else arrives at the next challenge. But before that, Jeff announces with a big long story exposition explanation of what this is. He announces the Blood Moon Twist, which will send three of them home tonight. What did you think of this? We've talked a little bit about this, but what did you think when Jeff announced this? Because there had been all sorts of speculation before this episode. What was this going to be? What's going to change the game forever? Like, what could this possibly be? And then we find out that it is this.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, knowing that they merged at 17, something like this was bound to happen just because of such a large number there that it's hard to all go to tribal together. But I think obviously, like, we know, like, it had to happen kind of thing, but it wish it happened in like slightly different way.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with it, if I really think about it, is just the fact that it really does screw over certain people who there wasn't much that they could have done. Because on a group of five, they don't have time to build new relationship. Like it's just for one round, for one vote, and it's such a small group that it's like you just get people that are just going to be completely unlucky. And I mean, not to spoil, but Genevieve, I think, is the biggest example of this. That she
Yeah.
just happens to end up on a group that is all pro Aubrey, and basically any other combination of people, she would have had a better chance at the very least of staying. And it
Yeah.
just so happens that she's with this group that like she doesn't have the time to build bonds, to build relationships with them because she knows it's only for one round, it's for one day. They're there, they have no time. And so
Just a
it's
few
like,
hours.
yeah, and it's just like, how are you expected when you're put in a group like with the worst possible people? Like, what can you do?
I know. I felt really bad for her there.
And that's why, like, I thought that it would have been better to just keep the same tribes and do this as the last pre-merge round, because then it's like, okay, you're with a group of people who you've been with for some time now. And if you didn't develop those relationships to keep yourself safe, and you just expected to try to win challenges and win immunity and not go to tribal, then that's on you at that point. Like that, you had the time to do that. Here it's like, what could you do?
Yeah, there's nothing.
Well, they to kind of explain what happened. So they split into three groups of five, all of which will go to tribal. One person from each of those groups will win immunity, and the last person of the overall standing, their group, will win the Applebee's reward. So I think this should have been hosted by Liz Wilcox. Personally, I think this would have been a great way to bring in some more alumni into the group. I think, like I said this the other day, I think that's the way that they could have celebrated Survivor 50. Not with the celebrities, not with the Zach Browns and Mr. Beast. Bring back some classic challenges and have the people who famously won those challenges, like bring back like the pole challenge where they're, standing on the pole. Bring back Parvati to host that. Bring back Liz Wilcox for the Applebee. Bring back I don't know, whoever, other examples of like people who, like Michelle Fitzgerald famously like kicked down the last immunity challenge puzzle when she won. Like that would have been a fun one to bring her back for. Just something like a way every couple weeks, bring back an alum to host a challenge and maybe host a reward for that. And I think that would have been very fun.
Yeah, I agree. They missed that opportunity.
Yeah, but instead we get serenaded by Zach Brown for 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
can't win them all. Well, the groups are Genevieve, Aubrey, Devins, Christian, and Joe, Sari, Emily, D, Coach, and Colby, and Tiffany, Camilla, Stephanie, Chrissy, and Jonathan. So Christian, D, and Stephanie end up winning immunity, their individual immunity within their groups. And Stephanie's the last one overall standing, and so she wins the Applebee's reward for her group. I have to say, a little bit surprised that Stephanie won this. I that worries me that she might be an individual immunity threat, because these days a lot of them seem to be those types of challenges, the endurance challenges.
Yeah. I saw, I mean, she looked like the strongest one of that tribe though. Of not like the not real tribe, but like, you know what, the
Yeah,
grouping.
whatever
Um
we call it.
yeah. But I feel like also that was the strongest one overall. Like they had the most people still
Yeah,
standing at the end. Like the other two groups, they were just done. Like they were like, all right, once I win, I can't hold this on anymore.
I
I mean,
wonder
not
how
that they didn't
long.
try. It seemed like they were trying. They just like didn't
Yeah,
have it in them. Like everyone just seemed like in so much pain when they were coming down that I was like, wow, like how what is happening here?
I wonder how long Christian and Dee could have gone for if they needed to. Like if they, because once you win the immunity, like yeah, you want to stay on for the reward, but at a certain point, it's like I don't care anymore. Like I want immunity. I want to get off of here. So I wonder if they like other people in their groups had remained on longer, how long they could have stood there for.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Because then, especially when they knew like the other group had like more than one person still there, then they weren't as motivated to because it seemed like they weren't going to outlast like more than just one person.
Yeah. Well, then after the challenge, we go back to exile where Rizzo tells Ozzy about his idol. So that is really what solidifies the three of them together with Suri, is that now they've all given information to each other and they really have that trust there. So I thought that was a good move by Rizzo to tell Ozzy about this, even though Ozzy already knew, but now Ozzy knows, okay, now he's told me about it. So I know that I can confirm this information that I've already been told from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I thought this was really good and really solidified that trust.
Yes. Well, that's basically the last we see of them for this episode. So then we go back to each of the groups. So we'll start with the Aubrey and Genevieve group. So of course, no surprise here. Aubrey wants to get out Genevieve. Genevieve wants to get out Aubrey. But Genevieve really doesn't have the numbers in this group. But Aubrey does have Christian and Devins, who obviously she knows that Devins gave her the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol. I don't think she knows exactly how involved Christian was with that, which was really, it was Christian's idol. But she knows that like the two of them are very close. It seems like that is pretty common knowledge that Christian and Devins are close. So Aubrey now trusts both of them, and the three of them are on board to get Genevieve out, but they do fear that she might have an idol. So Genevieve tells Joe that she wants to vote Devins since she knows Aubrey has an idol, and she considers Christian to be the swing vote here. This was kind of weird to me. I guess like Genevieve, and she said in her express that she really didn't know how close Christian and Devins are. But it did to me, just like from the episode, it felt like most people did know that they were pretty close. So that was kind of weird to me that like she thought she could convince Christian to vote out Devins.
I know. That was crazy because I would have thought Genevieve would have known about that.
I to me, the confusing part of this is like in Genevieve's situation, I would think that she would be willing to just drop Joe and be like, okay, if it's me or Joe, which it felt like would have been an easier thing to convince Christian, Devins, and Aubrey to do. Like, just if you're worried that she has an idol, then give them reasons to vote out Joe instead. Like, just be like, think about how big of an immunity threat he is. Like moving forward here, we're merged now. We don't need strength. We need to get out immunity threats, and he's an immunity threat. And like, I think that she could have maybe worked her magic to get them to vote Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm surprised no one was pitching him.
Yeah, but
Because
instead she was kind of pitching like you should work with me and Joe because
yeah.
Aubrey and Devins are a sinking ship. And I guess like if she doesn't understand how close Christian is to Devins, I get that maybe she thinks that's a possibility, but like I feel like even if she didn't know that they were like thick as thieves, she had to have known that like they've worked together before. They've been on tribes together before. Like they've developed a relationship, and it just to me it felt like the easier thing to do would have been to just try to get on board with them for one vote, one round, and get out Joe instead of me. So I don't know. I guess she didn't realize she didn't have the correct map out of the relationships in that group. So that was her downfall.
Yeah, for sure. I know it felt like there wasn't really anything she could. I mean, maybe the Joe thing would have worked, but it just seemed like it was a little too late too for that.
And it may not have. Yeah, it's very possible that like she could have tried that all she wanted and she would have still ended up going home here. But to me, knowing the dynamics of the group, that felt like probably would have been the easier move. But
Yeah, for sure.
hindsight's 2020. But let's move on to the next group. Colby talks about his foot injury and the fact that he still doesn't have a vote. I did not remember that he still didn't have a vote.
I didn't realize that either.
Like, we are 6 episodes in. He still doesn't have a vote from day one. That is wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
Or he
doesn't.
hasn't been to try for.
Yeah, crazy. But so coach tells D that Emily threw her name out last night and wants her gone. What do you think the odds are that coach knows D and Emily are from the same season and like best friends in real life?
I know this was crazy. I was like, I don't think you got the right picture here, but it was kind of funny to see.
So Dee and Emily then, of course, talk, and they're laughing about the fact that Coach would say this, and it makes them like really not trust Coach. That they think he's slimy, they think that he needs to go, and really, it seems like the vote is between Coach and Colby because Colby's kind of like a sitting duck based on his injury, but they think that he's going to be medevaced anyways due to his injury, and so they think, why are we going to waste a vote on him when we can get out Coach? And potentially take out both of them. But Suri, they talk to Suri. Suri is not as confident that he is going to get medevaced. And so she really prefers voting Colby because she thinks that he's the head of the snake. This was interesting to me because, to me, based on what we've seen, I feel like Coach is more the head of the snake. But I trust Suri more than I trust anyone. So I believe her. But that did surprise me a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I was a bit surprised by that too. I feel like I mean, either way, they were getting out one of them, so it was kind of like they're both good options here of who you get out. But also with it knowing that Colby almost got medevac, like they could have gotten both of them basically if if they had voted for Coach. So that was an interesting one too, just to see that. But I feel like yeah, we asked maybe that we've been getting like we see more of Coach because maybe they knew Colby was going out earlier, so they just hadn't shown us as much as like he was leading certain conversations. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also possible that Suri doesn't know everything that Coach is doing with like getting these group and honesty and integrity group together and naming their alliance and everybody's getting a name. And she doesn't necessarily know that all of that is happening. And so Colby might be doing more gameplay that she is seeing firsthand. And so she just kind of like has that view of who is in charge in this group and being more active in making alliances, and she might not realize that Coach is also very much doing that as well. But it's also possible that maybe she just sees Coach as somebody who's easier to get out later, that he's always going to be like kind of a big target, whereas Colby might be able to more easily like sneak under the radar a little bit. And especially because he has a foot injury, like she might think, well, if he doesn't get medevaced, then eventually like nobody, why would you take out Colby? He's not going to win immunity.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point too.
So then we move on to the last group here, and Camilla and Tiffany want to vote with Jonathan to take out Chrissy. They don't trust Chrissy, they never have, and they want her gone. Chrissy, originally we see getting emotional talking to Camilla, saying she knows she's probably going home and starts to cry a little bit. But then we see in her confessional that she's like, but I don't really think I am going home. And she is working on a plan with Stephanie and Jonathan because they are cut from the same cloth, whatever that means. A little controversial statement she made there. She wants to take out Camilla. So this makes Jonathan the swing vote here. What do you think of this plan by Chrissy?
Yeah, I mean, I I love Camilla, so I was sad to see her say your name. But I feel like if she wanted to stay, like it made sense of Chrissy trying to go for Camilla here. She had the numbers to get her out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't blame Chrissy for wanting to target Camilla. Camilla's targeting her.
Yeah.
So, you can't blame her for that. I did. My ears perked up a little bit at the cut from the same cloth comment because she made it twice to both Jonathan and Stephanie. And there are some people who are taking that to mean we're all white. I don't. I I think it's a bad statement. It's a bad look. I really more so think that she means like they're a new school survivor, their new era, we're old era, even though Chrissy is closer to the new era than the old era in terms of season numbers. But Jonathan also is new era, but he kind of gives an old school feel to him, I guess you could say. Like, and so I think she kind of thinks like we're hardworking. We're like, they're these young kids, and we're kind of more like, hard work and blood, sweat, and tears and all that. Like that's kind of how I think she meant it,
Yeah.
but it's not a great look.
No. Yeah, I didn't know what she meant by it at first, so we'll have to see.
Who
What?
knows? And she deleted her Twitter now based on all the hate she's been getting because of that. So I don't know that she's made or will make like an official statement about it. Maybe in her exit interview eventually we'll
Yeah.
hear more. But so this makes Jonathan the swing vote. What do you think? What direction should Jonathan have gone? Do you think he made the right choice?
I mean, I I don't think he made the right choice.
Okay,
Because
taking our own feelings out
yeah.
of it.
I know. Personally, no, aside from that. I think in the gameplay of it, yeah, I think he made the right choice. I think that he has more trust with Chrissy and Stephanie here, so I think that getting out someone else that wasn't one of them did make sense. So I think obviously like it's a game also like they're trying to play to win, so I think it did make sense here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that he did probably make the right choice. I think that uh, Camilla and Tiffany really were only probably going to want to work with him for that one vote. And then I could very easily see the two of them being like, okay, we don't need Jonathan anymore. Like, now let's get him out because
Yeah.
he's too big of a threat. Whereas I could see Stephanie in particular being somebody who wants to work with someone like Jonathan. They feel like their personalities mesh better together. They are cut from the same cloth, I think.
Yeah.
Take that what you will. But then we get to their tribal, and Camilla is blindsided and sent home in a 3-2 vote. I was so sad about this. I mean, like you said, we love Camilla. We've met her a couple times, and she's so sweet, and she's fun to watch play, especially like you could see that she was having so much more fun this season because she's not in a season of just this gigantic honesty and integrity group. Like she's playing with people who are willing to more so like be sneaky and whisper and play the game. And it feels like maybe we're heading in an honesty and integrity direction with certain people, although Colby's gone now, so maybe that's lessened a little bit. But I think that I'm glad that Camilla was able to have that experience, even though it was cut a little bit short here. But I still feel like it seemed like she had fun for the time she was there.
Yeah, for sure. And I was watching some of her exit press, and she was explaining that there was stuff that we didn't even see happen that led up to that vote, too. That she actually swapped her shot in the dark with
Yeah.
Stephanie, which we didn't see that happen, but she thought she at least gained some trust there, which obviously then didn't happen. So she was really, really blindsided here and didn't really exit very gracefully, which she also was like, yeah, like I was pissed. But I think it made for a fun way to exit that way. I feel like when there's drama at the end, it's kind of like, oh yes, like you actually did care.
So does that mean Stephanie doesn't have her shot in the dark anymore?
Well, maybe she has Camilla's.
Can she use someone else's?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought they swapped it because that way, like, neither of them could use theirs. And so that was like a sign of
Okay.
trust that, like, we're going to swap back after the vote because we'll both still be here.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't know the details of like if they could use someone else's. Maybe if not, then yeah, then Stephanie doesn't have one now.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. But speaking of shot in the dark, then we get to the second tribal council where Genevieve tries using hers, but is unlucky and unanimously voted out. This was to me the most predictable tribal. I think we all knew Genevieve was going here,
Yeah.
but really, really sad. Like, honestly, I think Genevieve has the potential to be the most screwed survivor player of all time. She found two idols and could not, had to give away both of them, could not use either of them for herself. Then she gets swapped onto this group with the three people who just so happened to be the group that would vote her out over Aubrey. And she just kept getting swapped onto tribes with her worst enemy, Aubrey. And it just felt like she couldn't catch a break this season.
I know. I felt for her, and I saw a video of someone saying that Billie Eilish owes Genevieve $1 million because of
Sia,
this.
where are you?
Yeah.
Are you still at the company retreat?
Exactly. We need Genevieve to get some sort of compensation here. But I think obviously, yeah, it was predictable with this happening, and she tried to use her shot in the dark, but that didn't end up being successful here. So sad to see her go this early on.
Yeah, yeah, really, really sad. She's such a fun player to watch, and bummed to see her go this early. But I'm glad we did get to see her play again for as long as we did, at least, and that she made the merge. That's a that's not too shabby.
True.
But then we get to our third tribal, where this was an emotional one. This was Colby just kind of reflecting on his time playing Survivor and talking about just how much of an impact the fact that like Emily and Dee, who are the new era reps on this in this group, wouldn't have been here without him, and the fact that he really was one of the OGs of this game, and that 25 years later is playing again, and he just seemed really grateful for the opportunity, which was nice to see, because I think last time we saw him here as villains, he was really in a bad mental state and just did not care or want to be there, really, it seemed like. And so to see now 15 years after that, just him having a totally different mindset about it and being so much more grateful for it, was really nice to see.
Yeah, I agree. It was sweet, and obviously we kind of could tell what was going to happen from them having such an emotional breakdown of Colby's career and or his life of Survivor, and I think that was sweet to see that as we knew was going to be exiting too.
Yeah. Well, that's the episode. I'm interested to see next week. We're down to 14 now. I'm curious if we are going to get a full one tribal with 14 people, which would also, I believe, be a Survivor record, or whether they're going to split into two groups of 7 and have two tribals. I don't know what we're doing here, but I'm curious and excited to find out.
Yeah, I really wanted to be one big
I do
tribal.
too.
That would be really fun to see all 14 together and seeing who aligns with who and everyone who's going to get voted out because there's so many options to choose from if they choose to be that big. But I don't know. I really don't want them to do that split again.
I know. I think like it's one of those things where it's like watching Australian Survivor at the same time as Survivor 50. It just goes to show how much more fun big group tribals are, because Australian Survivor also starts with 24 people, but they only do 2 tribes of 12 at the start. So like even in the beginning, like you're getting these huge groups, and then once they merge again, they don't split into little groups. They have a good, 12, 13 people at one tribal together. And it's really fun because there's so many little groups, little alliances. Like all the vote counts can change. You can split votes and all this stuff that when you have tribals with 5, 6 people, you just don't get that because there's not enough people to do it. So I hope that Survivor tries for one vote just to do a big group and see what happens. But I don't have a ton of faith because Jeff loves his small group tribals. Nowhere to hide. Dangerous fun.
I know. I don't want that to happen though. So let's speak into existence. It will be a big merge.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We're watching on YouTube. We will be back next week to cover whatever does come on Survivor 50. And we are excited for that. So be sure to follow us on all social media at Let's Chat Reality and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and rate and give us 5 stars too if you're at it, if you enjoyed our recap. So uh, we thank anyone for that, and we will be back next week. So we will chat with y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.